Hello and welcome everyone. So I am continuing with the renal pathology lecture, and this topic is membranous nephropathy, and it's important for the theory as well as many MCQs come from this topic. So I told you in nephrotic syndrome that important causes of nephrotic syndrome are minimal change disease in children. Then in young adults the cause is focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, and in the elderly the important cause is membranous nephropathy. So this membranous nephropathy, it manifests as nephrotic syndrome. So with proteinuria, edema, then hypoalbuminemia, hyperlipidemia, lipiduria, all these things, they come in the nephrotic syndrome. So membranous nephropathy manifests as nephrotic syndrome, and in membranous nephropathy, the important pathology is that there is immune complex deposition in the subepithelial side of the glomerular basement membrane, that is between the basement membrane and the podocytes. There is the deposition of the immune complexes, and the deposits, they are made up of IgG, and more specifically the IgG4 class, and along with the complement. So it gets deposited in the subepithelium. So there is increased thickness of the glomerular capillary wall. So there is immune complex deposition, as well as the basement membrane also gets thickened. So there is diffusely thickened glomerular capillary wall. Now the causes of membranous nephropathy, they are divided into two. The most common cause is primary, also known as idiopathic, and comprises of 75% of the cases of membranous nephropathy, and the secondary causes, they comprise 25%. So in the primary causes, there is the antigen is present in the kidney, against which there is antibodies. So basically autoimmune mechanism is there, and it is HLA-DQ1 associated. Again, this is a MCQ. So the antigen which is implicated in the primary form of membranous nephropathy, most commonly it is the phospholipase A2 receptor. So PLA2R, this antigen is present in the podocyte, and the podocyte in the basal part, which is near to the glomerular basement membrane. So these antigens, they are located in these sites, and the antibodies, they are directed against these antigens. So immune complexes, they are formed in between the podocyte and basement membrane, and with time these immune complexes, they get deposited in the subepithelial location. Then there are other antigens also which play a minor role. So one antigen is thrombospondin domain containing 7A, and the other antigen is CD10, also known as neutral endopeptidase, and this protein is important in cases of neonatal membranous nephropathy. So these are the antigens which are important in the primary membranous nephropathy, and this is the most important, phospholipase A2 receptor. And this lesion, this primary membranous nephropathy, this resembles the Hayman's model, which was used to study the membranous glomerulopathy, and the Hayman nephritis, it was studied in the rat model, and in the rat the podocyte has that antigen Magellan. So they in that experimental Hayman nephritis, the antibodies were induced against the Magellan antigen. So again, this can be asked in the MCQ. So this Magellan antigen, this is present in the rat podocyte, and antibodies were induced against this antigen in the Hayman nephritis model. So this primary membranous nephropathy is akin to this Hayman nephritis model. Now then there are the secondary causes. So secondary causes, they can be drugs like penicillamine, captopril, gold, NSAIDs. So some of these drugs, they are used for the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis, and then they can be underlying malignant tumors like carcinoma of colon, lung, melanoma. Then glomerulonephritis associated with SLE, so the lupus nephritis, in 10 to 15% cases will manifest as membranous nephropathy. Then infections like hepatitis B, C, syphilis, which is caused by Treponema pallidum, then malaria, and schistosomiasis. Then other autoimmune disorders like autoimmune thyroiditis. These are also associated with membranous nephropathy. In that case, it is called secondary membranous nephropathy. So again, there will be immune complex deposition. They can be circulating antigen antibody complexes, or there can be antigens which are planted in the kidney. So all these are the causes of membranous nephropathy. Now the pathogenesis. So basically it is the immune complex mediated disorders, and most common cause is the antibodies which are formed against the antigen PLA2R. So this antigen is present in the podocyte, and the antibodies they attach to this antigen. So antigen antibody complex is formed, and this immune complex leads to the activation of the complement system. So when the complement system is activated, then membrane attack complex is formed. This further activates the glomerular epithelial cells, that is the podocytes and the mesangial cells. Also there is release of proteases and oxidants, because so these cells release these proteases and oxidants, and these will cause the damage to the glomerular capillary wall. So when there is glomerular capillary wall damage, so there will be increased leakiness of the glomerular basement membrane, and that will lead to the protein leakage and proteinuria. Normally the proteins they are not filtered across the glomerular basement membrane, because this glomerular basement membrane is negatively charged, so it repels these proteins. But here there will be capillary wall injury leading to the proteinuria. So this is about the pathogenesis of the membranous nephropathy. Now next we come to the morphology. So for a diagnosis of membranous nephropathy, the renal biopsy is needed, and with the renal biopsy we can perform tests like the light microscopy with the HND stain, then electron microscopy, immunofluorescence, and we can also do immunostaining on a renal biopsy. So in a light microscopy we can see the diffuse thickening of the glomerular capillary wall. So this can be better demonstrated with special stain like the silver methenamine stain, which will stain the basement membrane. So with the silver stain there is seen the spikes and domes in the basement membrane. So how these are formed? So here we have a look. There is in the glomerular basement membrane, in the glomerular filtration barrier, there is this on the outer side, there is this podocytes. These are the podocytes, and in membranous nephropathy the food processes they are E-phased. And next there is the basement membrane. After that there is the fenestrated endothelium. So the immune complexes they are present between the epithelium and the basement membrane. So these are the immune complexes. So with time this basement membrane it starts to grow in between these immune complexes, and they appear as irregular spikes. So because this basement membrane material it is now laid down in the form of spikes in between these immune complexes, so this is known as the spike appearance. When the disease further progresses, again this basement membrane will grow around these immune complexes in a dome shaped manner, and these immune complexes they will get buried in these basement membrane. So in this pattern is known as the dome pattern. Both these pattern can be demonstrated using the silver stains. So in this image uh, we can see that there is this is the dome pattern, and which is enclosing the immune complex, and here there is the spike pattern. So this is known as the spike and dome pattern, and this can be demonstrated with the help of the silver methenamine stain. So this you should remember, the stain which is used to demonstrate this spike and dome pattern. So this pattern is characteristic for the membranous nephropathy. Now later on, when the disease further progresses, there can be segmental sclerosis in the glomeruli, and that this sclerosis can also involve whole of the glomeruli, and this will compromise the renal function. Now in electron microscopy, the electron dense deposits will be seen in the subepithelial location. So here again you can see these are the endothelium lining, then there is a basement membrane, and these are the epithelial cells, podocytes, and their food processes they become E-phased. Now these are the deposits, electron dense deposits, which are present in the subepithelial location. And so 2 points you need to remember: the electron dense deposits, and second is the E-phased food processes. Again, next point is immunofluorescence. So immunofluorescence, it's easy to remember because there is immune complex deposition. So there will be granular deposits of immunoglobulin G and complement. So these give a granular appearance on the immunofluorescence. Then immunostains we can use to reveal the phospholipase A2R or the thrombospondin domain containing 7A positivity. So these can also help in the diagnosis of membranous nephropathy. Now amongst the other investigation, they can be in the blood we can detect the circulating antibodies to PLA2R and THSD7A. So this is a marker for the disease activity, can be used for diagnosis and can be used for monitoring of the disease. And then urine examination will help to detect the proteinuria. We can see whether it is in the nephrotic range, or in the early stages it can be in the non-nephrotic range. Then in the nephrotic syndrome you can detect lipiduria in the urine. Then kidney function test will like serum creatinine, burn, they will be used to assess the kidney function. So all these investigations can also be done besides the renal biopsy, which is the most important. Now clinically, the onset of this disease is insidious and it presents as nephrotic syndrome. So the proteinuria here is non-selective, that is along with albumin, other proteins they are also coming in the urine. Then when there is sclerosis in the glomeruli in the later part of the disease, then it leads to the progression of disease, and eventually the patient has end stage renal disease, so which will need a renal transplant. Even with renal transplant, the recurrence of the disease will occur in 40% of the patients. Now in the primary membranous nephropathy, which is autoimmune, steroids and immunosuppressants are used for the treatment, but they don't give such a good response like it is seen in minimal change disease. And in the secondary disease is there, which then we have to treat the underlying cause. So this was all about membranous nephropathy, and any questions are most welcome in the comment section. And thank you very much for the patient listening.